Hey guys, it's Narissa Nicole. Welcome to my channel. So today, instead of sharing a store-bought cake mix hack with you, I'm going to share with you a store-bought cake hack. 3 of them actually. I'm going to show you how to transform a store-bought, already prepared cake into something that will make your guests think that you spent hours and hours in the kitchen making, or they're gonna think you spent a ton of money at a bakery. All from store-bought cakes that are not only affordable, but also delicious. So let me show you what I did. All right, so the first store-bought cake hack I have to share with you is a surprise cake or explosion cake that I made using 2 strawberry cakes that I found at Walmart. And I'm decorating them using this Kutek cake decorating kit that they sent me to test out. And it's awesome. It has everything you need if you're just like an at-home for fun baker like me. It has this awesome raised turntable that can also double as a cake stand, 2 spatulas. It has 12 different piping tips, 50 piping bags, disposable piping bags, as well as 2 silicone piping bags that are reusable. And it also has this awesome little cheat sheet that you can use to decide which piping tip you want. And also those scrapers that help you get your frosting super smooth on the outside. And it's for less than $20 on Amazon. So I'll link it down below. I always have questions on where I get my scrapers and supplies. And so this is the perfect kit. Less than $20 and has everything you need. First, I'm going to take one of the cakes and put it on the turntable, and I am going to cut off the top rounded portion of the cake because I want to get a nice level surface so that I can stack the other cake onto that one. Now save this piece of cake that we're cutting off because we're going to use it later. Now I put this on a cake round, a cardboard cake round, but if you don't have one of those, don't worry. We're going to use the cake top that we just cut off to plug the hole, so you can also do that at the bottom. So stack your second cake right on top of the first cake. It's going to be the most level cake you have ever made. And then this is so satisfying, filling that hole with the sprinkles. You can do different kinds of candy, you can do sprinkles, you can do a little surprise, you can stuff money down in there, anything that you can think of. Just make sure it's food safe. But I thought I needed a few more sprinkles, so I found some more. And then I found a glass that is about the same diameter of the hole in the cake. And I'm going to use that to sort of cookie cutter out holes to fill the hole in the cake. Now, that piece was too big, or too tall, so I cut just a little bit of the bottom off because we want to get a nice level surface there so that we can decorate. To frost this cake, I just grabbed 2 containers of strawberry frosting. This is the Pillsbury brand, I believe. So 2 containers of strawberry frosting was the perfect amount to frost this cake. You might be thinking, what? There's no way. There's not that much frosting in those containers. Well, I'm going to show you a trick to double the size of your store-bought frosting. So what you want to do is put it in your mixing bowl and then just turn it on high and let it go for like 10 minutes. And it's going to double in size. It's going to get much more fluffy and you're going to be able to work with it a lot easier. Now, I wanted it to be a little bit thicker, so I went ahead and added a few tablespoons of powdered sugar to the frosting, and that just helped thicken it up even just a little bit more. Store-bought frosting just tends to be kind of loose and a little bit runny, so you oftentimes have to hack it to make it useful when you want to decorate with it. So I thought it needed just a little bit more powdered sugar, so I added a couple more tablespoons to thicken it up. And now we are ready to get it into our piping bag. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know why I didn't use one of the disposable bags that came in the Kutek cake decorating kit, but I just went ahead and used a plastic bag or a storage bag and cut the tip off. I don't know why. I'm like hoarding the supplies, I guess. So a little trick here, take a glass and put your piping bag or your plastic storage bag into a glass, and that will help you fill up the bag a little easier and give you a surface to scrape your spatula on. So this step, we're not going to use a piping tip for. We're just going to cut a big corner out of the bag. And we're basically just trying to get a lot of frosting on the cake at once in a somewhat even manner. That way it gives us a jumping off point to get the frosting in a super smooth layer, which in my opinion is kind of the hardest part, other than actually baking the cake and getting it, you know, to the exact right doneness. But in this case, we're not baking, we're taking help from the store and we are hacking some store-bought cakes. So use your spatula. You can use the offset one or you can use the flat one and just start smoothing, smoothing, smoothing. Now, any frosting that I take off with the spatula, I am going to wipe that into a separate bowl just in case there are any crumbs from the cake. I don't want to put that back into the fresh frosting. And then if I need any extra frosting, I can use that sparingly, what I scrape off and put into the bowl. So I'm just smoothing, 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 filling in any spots that I need to, and doing the bulk of the smoothing with my spatula. Now to sort of fine tune the edges of the cake, I'm using the scraper. So this kit came with 3 different scrapers and I'm just using the flat one. And this is where this turntable comes in handy. It really does help get your frosting smooth and definitely helps when decorating too. While I'm not a professional cake decorator, I do have lots of subscriber friends that are and professional bakers, and they have offered up some tips that have been total game changers, and this is one of them. When you're almost done with your cake smoothing, spray the cake with a little bit of water, just a little bit of water, and then smooth it out again. It will give a perfect finish. Now for the fun part, decorating using the piping tip. So I got out the little cheat sheet to decide which piping tip I wanted to use, and then I used the glass trick again to fill the piping bag with frosting. And then did a little practice piping before I started decorating on the actual cake. Then onto the cake, I'm going to start at the bottom, just kind of doing a looping motion with my wrist. And again, using the turntable, which is the most useful cake decorating tool, in my opinion. Jumping onto the top, I just was using the same sort of looping motion to create that design. And I ended up doing a few layers on the top to kind of give a little more height to the cake. The last step was just to add a few sprinkles on top, and this was my mom's birthday cake. You can see the candles and the ice cream in the background, but wait for the explosion. Such an impressive cake, and it only cost me $24 to make. It would cost you upwards of $60 if you were to purchase this at a bakery. This next store-bought cake hack I have to share with you is even taller and it's even easier than the first one. So I just have 2 7-inch vanilla cake with red rosettes cakes that I bought at Walmart. They were $11.98 a piece and I bought 2 of them. So this cake again is going to cost me $24. Now what I'm doing is I'm using the spatula that came in my Kutek cake decorating kit, and I'm just going to remove the decoration from one of them and then gently remove the decoration from the other. So you can see I did pull off some of the frosting. Now that is because I put these cakes in the freezer. I highly recommend freezing your cakes. It just makes them so much easier to work with. And you know, when you work with the cake and you're inside, sometimes they tend to heat up and they get a little messy. So if you freeze them before you work with them, it just really takes a lot of the mess away. So now I am gently as I can, pulling off the piping on one of them. We're going to leave the piping on the other. So this is going to be our bottom layer. Now, since it's frozen, the frosting is pretty thick, I should say. So it's kind of hard to work with, but then again, a little easier. Now these cakes do have the cake round at the bottom, so no need to worry about that. I am just going to take the cake round off the top layer before I put it on the cake, and there. So I'm like, that's a little lopsided. Well, even professional bakers, or you know, how they produce their cakes at Walmart, they're not perfect. So these cakes were just a tad bit slanted. So what I did was I put the slanted parts opposite of one another. That helped even out the cake. It helped to level out the cake. So voila, there we go. It's as level as it's going to be. And so now you see we have a gap between the two layers, but that's okay. We're going to use the frosting that we took off the first one, or the piping that we took off the first one, and we're going to use that to fill the gaps. But make sure you get any leftover crumbs from the cake off of that frosting, because that would be very unsightly. So I'm going to use my spatula and just stir up the frosting that we took off and get it a little bit easier to work with, a little smoother, and just fill in that gap like spackle. Honestly, it's like we're tiling a bathroom. Just using that frosting to fill in the gap, and it is easy to do because that frosting is so cold, and it makes it just thick and a little easier to work with. So keep working your way around the cake, and it's going to look a little messy at first, but don't worry, we're going to smooth it all out. We're going to merge it all together, and it's going to look awesome. So you can see that the original cake did have some ribbing as the decoration, so I thought that I could try and use the ribbed cake scraper that came in the Kutek kit, but it just wasn't similar enough, so I decided to just smooth out the entire thing. Now we're going to add those rosettes back to the top of the cake. So you might be saying, Narissa, why did you take it off to begin with? Well, I wanted to put both of them back on. So in order to space them appropriately, we had to take the one off. So I'm putting both of the rosette clusters back on the top of the cake, minus a couple leaves because I ate them. But then I zoomed in a little bit so you can see there is a little bit of gap right there, and I'm just using some frosting and a toothpick to kind of push it in that gap and smooth it out a little bit, and you can't even tell at all. This cake turned out so good. Now each cake was a 2-layer cake, so now we have a 4-layer cake, and this one is about 10 inches tall. Now, if you don't have a lot of time and you still want to make an impressive cake, definitely make this one. It took me less than 20 minutes to put this all together, and check out those 4 layers. This cake was really impressive, and again, it only cost $24 to put together. This is the last cake hack I have to share with you, and this is a 5-inch strawberry cake that I got at Walmart for $5.98, and I'm going to turn this into cake balls. So you see I have some chocolate melts, I have some sticks, and some sprinkles. So cake balls essentially are just a combination of cake and frosting. So if you are on a time and money budget, try this out. Just buy a cheap cake, a cheap pre-made cake, and mix it all up and make some cake balls. Now for a minute here, I forgot how to use my stand mixer, and I couldn't figure out how to get this dang bowl to latch on my KitchenAid. I have no idea why I use it all the time, but I thought I would leave that in there because it is quite funny. So all you're going to do is put your cake in your mixing bowl and just mix it up. Mix the cake and the frosting together, and it's going to give you this really gooey sort of truffle like consistency cake batter dough. So you can see right there. Now it's just, this is so yummy. You can use any cake you want. You could think of the possibilities. You could use chocolate cake. You could use any cake really that has cake and frosting, and Walmart does offer a lot of pre-made cake options for very affordable prices. So I'm using a cookie scoop. I think it's about a 1-inch cookie scoop, maybe a 1.5-inch cookie scoop, to scoop out the cake ball batter and put it onto some parchment paper. If you don't have a cookie scoop, or an ice cream scoop actually, in a couple different sizes in your kitchen, definitely go ahead and pick some up, because I use them all the time for many different things. I barely use them for ice cream. I'm usually using them for meatballs or cake balls, or to put batter into some cupcake tins, in even amounts. They really come in handy. I'll link some down below if you want to grab some. As soon as you get your cake balls formed, go ahead and throw them in the freezer. We want them to freeze for a couple hours because that's going to make it a lot more easy to work with. Otherwise, we're going to have a mess. So I'm melting my chocolate, and you want to melt it in the microwave at 15-second intervals, making sure that you do not overheat it, because if you do, it'll get thick and it'll be ruined. So my chocolate was still too thick. I didn't overheat it, but a really awesome hack to make your dipping chocolate a little thinner is to add just a little bit of vegetable oil. This will thin it out. You won't even know it's there. I know it sounds gross, but if you add a little bit of vegetable oil, it will thin it out to a much better consistency and make it easier to dip. So these are cake balls on a stick, but you can also make cake balls without having those treat sticks. Now, I did get those treat sticks at Walmart. I can't remember how much they were, but if you don't have those on hand, go ahead and just use 2 forks and drop the cake ball down into the chocolate and use the forks to retrieve them. If you do have the sticks, just dip the sticks into the chocolate and then put them into the cake ball. That will make them stick when that chocolate cools. So then I realized I was still using the fork, but if you are using the treat sticks, just dip it into the chocolate, put it into the cake ball, and then you can use the treat stick to dip the cake ball into the chocolate. I didn't add my sprinkles in time. The chocolate solidified quicker than I thought that it would, so I only was able to add sprinkles to one of them, but nonetheless. So I used the cake turntable to sort of display my cake balls on, and here's the finished product. Super simple, super fun, and affordable too. So that is it for my store-bought cake transformations. Let me know if you've ever transformed a store-bought cake before, or if you plan on trying any of these in the comment section down below. And if you like these types of videos, definitely subscribe to my channel, because I have tons of them that I have already posted and many more to share in the future. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.